So, hi guys, finally, this is the answer key for quiz number 4. I'm encouraging everyone to finish this PowerPoint presentation because I'll be having some announcement at the end of the slides. Okay, so let's start. Problem number 1 is the comparative statement of financial position and statement of comprehensive income of Caesar Company on December 31, 2019 are shown below. So this first illustration is the statement of financial position, or also known as the balance sheet, for 2 consecutive years. You have 2018 and 2019. Whereas the second illustration is the statement of comprehensive income. So both of these statements have been discussed already in the past discussion. So later, doon na natin i-discuss yung amounts, but these are basically the given on the problem that was provided in the module. Okay, so we also have additional information. So number 1, an equipment with carrying amount of 240,000 was sold for 200,000 only, resulting to a loss on sale of 40,000. So carrying amount daw is 240. When you say carrying amount, it's the cost of the equipment minus the accumulated depreciation. That is your resulting carrying amount. And it was sold for 200,000 pesos only. So 240 minus 200, nalugi siya ng 40,000. Okay? Next, acquisition of equipment for cash amounted to 800,000. So, binenta itong equipment dito sa information number 1. Whereas, dito naman sa number 2, bumili daw. So, nag-cash outlay ng 800,000. Again you have to remember na it was bought for cash. Next, owner drawings totaled 90,000. So, nag-withdraw daw si owner. Requirement: prepare the statement of cash flows using the pro forma statement provided below. Be sure to provide a proper heading for the statement. So, this problem is super easy. Why? Binigay na sa inyo lahat ng kailangan, yung kailangan description. So, you just need to supply it with the correct number. Diba? So, alam niyo na agad what item yung mga gagamitin nyo and what are those na hindi naman relevant dito sa problem na to. Okay, so for the answer key, nilatag ko lang, 2018, 2019. So, ganun pa rin. Same task, total assets, total liabilities, and equity, their balance. So, first thing that you need to do is to identify the changes. So, ginawa ko, sinubtract ko lang 440 minus 200. That gives me 240. And I did the same to all of the items in here. Okay? Now, I put the remarks para alam natin ano yung nangyayari and para saan siya gagamitin. First is the cash and cash equivalents I have here should be net cash flow. So, again, etong 240,000 na to, if you are asked how much is the ending cash, this is not the answer. The answer should be for 40,000. Ano ba tong 240,000 na to? 240,000 is the net cash flow. Ito lang yung naging movement ng cash. But it doesn't necessarily mean na ito na yung total cash. Lalo, meron kang beginning. So, if the question is how much is the cash ending, it's simply the beginning cash of 200 plus the net cash flow of 240 equals 440,000. So this is the ending cash, the 440,000. Okay. Next, trade and receivable tumaas. So we have increase in CA. Inventory bumaba. We have decrease in CA or current assets. Prepaid expense bumaba. We have decrease in CA. Again, if there is an increase in current asset, it should be deducted from your operating income after adding the non-cash expense. If there is a decrease, you should add it back. Okay? Now we have total non-current assets and the changes is 320,000. Again, ano ang component ng 320? You have PPE na binenta mo, so nabawasan ng 240 yung PPE mo. And then bumili ka, nadagdagan ng 800. And then you have your accumulated depreciation of negative 240. Now, if you were wondering, ma'am, saan galing yung accumulated depreciation na 240? Wala naman sa given. Emboss na kasi siya or kasama na siya dito. Pero, para magets nyo agad or malaman nyo kung saan siya nanggaling, look for the comprehensive income din. Okay? Kasi the comprehensive income ay makikita ka ron na depreciation expense. So, since wala namang further given, it appears na first year pa lang, ayun na yung total accumulated depreciation that we have. Okay? Isa lang yung accumulated depreciation na meron tayo, and that is the depreciation expense for this current year. But then again, it's not like that all the time. Okay? Kasi when you say accumulated depreciation, it's the depreciation throughout the years. So if it's already 3 years in the service, accumulated depreciation means the depreciation expense for the past 3 years. So, hindi tama tong 240 if that's the case. But then, wala namang ibang binigay and it appears na 2019 lang yung start of the year and 2018 yung start of the year and 2019 ngayon. So, basically, ngayon pa lang nagkakaroon ng accumulated depreciation. Okay? And wala namang ibang given, so let's stick with it. 240,000. After all, we have the correct answer. If we deduct 240 plus 800 minus 240, that would give us 320,000. And 320,000 is the difference then between the 760 ending PPE minus the 440 beginning PPE. Okay? Next, we have the liability. So, tumaas, increase in liability. Increase in current liability again. If it's an increase in current liability, you have to add it back to the operating income after adding the non-cash expense. Then we have the owner's equity. So the difference or the changes is 30,000. So nanggaling yan. We have the net income. This can be seen on your statement of comprehensive income, 120. And then this additional information, you have the drawings daw of 90,000. So that's negative. Kaya kaya tumaas ng 30,000. Dito siya nanggaling. 120 minus 90,000. Okay? So ilatag na natin siya. Basically, we are going to use an indirect method based on sa pro forma statement na binigay sa atin. Okay? So this is the answer key again. Header is very relevant, very important, and I put additional 1 point for this. There are some of you who put statement of comprehensive income dito, other statement of financial position. Again, you have to remember this statement is the statement of cash flows. Huwag kayo malilito. After all, kung makikita nyo naman, puro cash, cash, cash lang siya. So, huwag kayo magkahamali dito sa heading. Kasi, this represents, kapag i-report nyo na sa boss nyo, isang tingin lang niya, okay, so this is the statement of cash flow. Pag mali pala yung nalagay yung heading dyan, malilito rin yung user, right? So cash flow from operating activities, let's start with the net income. Again, this is presented on the statement of comprehensive income na given, so 120. Add natin yung non-cash expense, which is the depreciation, unang-una, to 40. Second is the loss on sale of equipment, 40,000. Ma'am, bakit nandiyan yung loss on sale of equipment? Kasi, si loss on sale, diba, it's another expense. Nabawasan yung net income mo because you deducted it sa income statement or sa comprehensive income mo. Pero, wala namang lumabas na cash sa'yo. Tama? Nalugi ka lang. Pero wala naman lumabas na cash. After all, may pumasok pa nga na cash kasi binenta mo yung asset mo. So, ibig sabihin, this is considered as non-cash expense. That's why the add. Okay? In-add natin siya. Ngayon, may mga nagtatanong, ma'am, bakit yung bad debt expense parang hindi nasama sa eksena? When you say bad debt expense kasi, these are the receivables na hindi na talaga makokolekta. Okay? Hindi siya doubtful. When you say doubtful kasi parang doubtful ka or alanganin na masisingil mo. Si bad debt expense kasi wala na talaga. Kaya hindi na talaga siya masisingil. So, bad debt expense, since it has an impact sa receivable, ang entry niyan, debit, bad debt expense, credit, accounts receivable. So, kung titingnan natin, dito, sa receivable, increase in receivable, nandyan naka-built-in yung budget expense. Kasi kung makikita mo, debit, di ba? Budget expense, credit, accounts receivable. So, nabawasan yung accounts receivable because of that budget expense. Ay, akala lang natin, ang nakakapag-decrease na accounts receivable if there's a collection. Debit cash, credit accounts receivable. Di ba? So, in short, walang naging effect si cash supposedly kay AR. But since we are using the indirect method, ang ginagamit natin is increase, decrease in current assets or current liabilities. Kaya dito sa increase in accounts receivable, nandito rin yung effect ng budget expense. Okay? So for those who are asking, supposedly it should be a non-cash expense. However, since nandun na siya sa accounts receivable, i-ignore natin siya for purposes of this discussion. Alright. Next. 120 plus 240 plus 40, you have 400,000. This is the operating income before working capital changes. Now let's move on to working capital changes. First, we have increase in accounts receivable. Again, if it's an increase in current asset, it's a deduction, so minus 10,000. Decrease in inventory, nag-decrease daw, so add 360. Decrease in prepaid expense, nag-decrease, so add 120. And lastly, increase in accounts payable. So increase in current liability, so you have to add it. 400 minus 10 plus 360 plus 120 plus 60. Net cash flow from operating activities is 930,000. Next, cash flow from investing. So basically, ang transaction lang naman from investing is purchase of equipment, diba? Bumili. So, kung bumili ka, outflow yon, negative 800. Sale of equipment, nagbenta ka. So, kung nagbenta ka, may pumasok sa yung pera, but even though the carrying amount is 240, kung nabenta mo na siya ng 200, you just only need to consider 200 in here. After all, the loss is embedded in here. So, dito siya. Diba? Nandiyan yung loss on sale of equipment mo. It's a non-cash expense. So, total net cash flow from investing activity is negative 600,000. And lastly, we have the cash flow from financing. So, isa lang naman, which is the owner's drawing. So, negative 90,000. So, net cash flow from financing activity is negative 90,000. So 930 minus 600 minus 90, net cash flow is 240. As you may notice, this is the changes in cash and cash equivalent, diba? This should be net cash flow. And then I added back the cash beginning, which is your cash from 2018, the 200,000, and that would give us the ending cash of 440,000. Okay. So every line item 120, 240, 40, 400, 10, 360, 120, 60, 930, 800, 200, 600, 90, 90, 240, 200, 440 is 2 point each. And then, of course, yung negative, positive is very important. Kasi I wouldn't know if paano nyo nakuha to. Because if they're both positive, this should be 1 million, right? So I need to see. That is very important, guys, on your presentation then. Na don't ignore the sign. Okay? If it's negative, then put negative. Huwag kayo mahiya. If it's positive, then Leave it as is. Okay. So again, this alone is 35 points. 34 dito sa statement, and then for the heading, 1 point. So 35 points. Next, multiple choice. So number one, this result primarily from transactions that affect income and expenses. The answer is cash flow from operating activities. Again, operating activities are also known as net income activities, diba? So it's A. Next, which of the following is a cash flow that is presented in operating activity section of statement of cash flow? So when we say operating activities, these are basically the net income or those that are affecting the main business of the company. So cash receipts from sale of property, plant, equipment, no, that's investing. Cash receipt from investment of owner to the business. So investment of owner to the business, that's financing. Cash payment on drawings by owner, that's financing as well. So ang answer is cash receipts from sale of goods. Next, number 3. Which of the following is the cash flow that is presented in investing section of statement of cash flow? Investing dito, so cash paid from purchase of inventory, that is operating. Cash flow on loans taken from a bank, that is financing. Cash paid for salaries expense, this is operating. Cash payments for acquisition of PPE, this one is the investing activity. Next, number 4. Which of the following is a cash flow that is presented in the financing activity section of statement of cash flow? Cash paid for utility expense, this is operating. Cash paid for interest expense, this is operating. Sale of inventory and account, this is operating. Repayment of loan taken from bank, this one is the financing activity. Okay. Number 5. These result primarily from transaction with the owner and the borrowings, or owner from the borrowings. So this is basically financing activities. So letter C. Number 6. This method of presenting cash, which shows each major class of gross cash receipts and gross cash payments. So if nagsimula ka sa net income and then pababa, that is indirect. But since sinabi dito na each major class of gross cash receipts and gross cash payment yung presentation, so that is a direct method. Yung increase, decrease in current assets, current liability, that is the indirect one. Next, number 7. How is depreciation expense presented in the operating activity section of statement of cash flows prepared using the indirect method? Diba, ang ginagawa natin kay depreciation expense, we're adding it back to the net income. Why is that? Because the net income, that is on a accrual basis. Even non-cash transactions are included in there. So we are adding it to the accrual basis profit. Number 8. Entity A reported profit of 340,000 for the year ended December 31, 20x1. Depreciation expense for the year was 100,000. The following are the changes in the operating assets and liabilities of Entity A during 20x1. So we have year 0, year 1, 300, 560, 120, 240. How much is the net cash from operating activities? So guys, again AR mo rito, tumaas, increase in current asset by 260, the increase in current liability by 120, and then you have 340 as your profit, and you have the non-cash expense, which is depreciation of 100,000. So let's see. The answer is 300,000. So how did we get 300K? Again, you have net income of 340. That's your starting point. Then add the depreciation expense. Okay, so depreciation expense is 100,000. And then operating income before working capital changes is 440. Inad ko lang yan. And then we have increase in AR. So tumaas, diba? So it's a deduction. Increase in current assets, diba? Less 260, and then increase in AP 120. So 440 minus 260 plus 120, net cash flow from operating activity is 300,000. Okay, next. Use the following information for the next two questions. So last two na tayo. The following were the cash transactions of entity A during the period. So we have cash receipts from sale of goods, 650,000. Cash paid for purchases of inventory, that's 340. Cash receipts and loans taken from a bank, that's 200,000. Cash paid to interest expense, that's 20,000. And cash payments at the acquisition of PPE, that's 180,000. Okay. So how much is the net cash flow? Net cash from used in Net cash from or used in operating activities. So for this one, the answer is letter C, 290,000. Saan natin nakuha yan? So we have cash receipts from sale of goods, that's 650. Cash paid for purchases of inventory, that's minus 340. And then lastly, diba, we have the cash paid for interest expense, those who missed this, minus 20. So 650 minus 340 minus 20. Net cash flow from operating activity pero positive pa rin. Positive 290,000 kasi mas malaki yung inflow kesa si outflow. And last question, how much is the net cash flow, net cash from or used in investing activities? For this one, the answer is letter B. Bakit? Isa lang yan. Cash payment for acquisition of property, plant, and equipment. And payment means outflows. Why the negative? That's negative yung answer natin. Okay? So that ends your quiz. And for pointing system, statement of cash flows, you have 34. Plus, for those who have proper heading, that's additional 1 point. And multiple choice, we have 10 points. So total of 45 points. Okay. Okay, guys. So once you've already watched that one, kindly message me done. And for tomorrow, as I've discussed, um, we'll be talking about the financial ratios. So ngayon pa lang, I would like you to take a look at it para hindi kayo malito bukas. Kasi medyo next level na siya and medyo technical na siya. And if kaya nyo na siyang aralin ngayon and bukas, confirmation na lang of your knowledge, then mas maganda. Mas maiintindihan nyo yung discussion bukas. Okay, again, message me done. For those who will not be messaging me, I will be tagging it as absent. So this is an overdue activity for you guys. I've given you enough time. Deadline is within today. Kahit hanggang 12 midnight, I'll be accepting it. Okay? So you do have a good one and see you tomorrow. Bye.